Service call. Heading out to a John Deere. What was that thing now again? 7420? 7420, I think, yeah. I did a fuel injection pump repair on this tractor almost 3 years ago. It's got a Stanadyne DE pump, so that's the rotary pump that has that big solenoid valve on the end, on the head there, and that's your fuel control valve. It was originally a 1076 code, which basically means you have a dead pump and it needs to get sent away. Sometimes it's just a connection on the solenoid, sometimes it's the solenoid, sometimes it's the metering valve plunger inside. There's a bunch of stuff that goes wrong, but basically you're supposed to buy a new pump. So this one, I took it off, I fixed it, I set it up properly again, I put it all back together. It was, surprisingly, it was pretty tight already, that tolerance, but anyway, the pump worked. And sometimes they last for a long time after you do that, and sometimes they don't. And this one now, I don't know how many hours he has on it. It's only been a couple of years though. And he's bought a new pump. He just called me tonight. He said, can you come after supper and put this on? And I mean, obviously I don't have time to do that right now, but it's just what we do, right? Squeeze in as many jobs as you can till you're riding the edge of the envelope of just before you go insane. That's where you stop. Anyway, I'm going to try and get that done tonight for him so he can do whatever he's got to do. This is a chore tractor, loader tractor, so hopefully it's still running so I can lift the loader and get the loader out of the way, because sometimes once those codes get bad enough, they won't even run anymore, those engines. So anyways, it should be just a quick R&R tonight. I don't even know why the pump is being changed. I don't know what codes it's giving. I don't know, none of that. So we'll show up there and find out. Yeah, and in the meantime, I'll throw a couple clips in here of when I repaired that pump last time, a couple years ago. And while you're watching that, I'll drive out to the yard and we will see what's wrong with this thing. Today's job, 7420. We got injection pump problems again. This is a 1076 ECU code. I got the pump off. It's a John Deere reman pump. So it's interesting that it's already giving trouble, but it's the control solenoid again. It's these DE pumps, that's a common problem. You're supposed to go buy another reman pump. But anyways, that was a very bad install job on this thing. The nut that holds that gear on was tight, but the gear just popped off like nothing, and that's not right. But if you look inside there, let me get some light on the situation here. You can see all that green paint inside here. That is very, very bad. The only thing that holds that drive gear to this pump is the compression fitting of that taper when it's jammed on there. So when you get that green paint on there, it doesn't sit properly. And so that gear will actually wobble I mean, you can't even see it, but it wobbles a bit. And that actually loosens up over time. So he was not very far away from slipping the timing on here, and then the tractor wouldn't run anyway. But so we're gonna fix this pump for him, and then we're gonna clean all this paint out of here, put it back together properly, and should be good to go. First things first, we gotta give this guy a bath. I don't want all that crummy junk getting all over my parts in there. Alright, we got most of the crummy stuff all off of there so I can get it apart, find out what's going on in this end of it. Alright, so I got the hydraulic head out of there. I'm just checking what the setup clearance is for the injection control valve before I actually take that hydraulic head apart. So let's see if we can set this up for you to see where we're at. It's not as far out as I was expecting. So if I just check it, we're zeroed, and then we got 8 thou. 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 thou. So the spec is on a used valve is about 7 thou. And so we're only 1 thou off. But we'll see what else we find inside there yet, but that may be all it takes on this one. Alright, we got that apart. Our armature looks good. A little bit of wear on the tip there. Nothing too serious. If I pull him out of here, we've got sort of our regular tracks on that end. A little bit of wear on the barrel there, but nothing too serious. Everything looks good there. That's that end that's got a little bit of the, there you can see a little bit of wear on the end of the pin there. So otherwise that looks okay. This one has no bubbling or anything on here. Seems to be a little bit of dirt or something in here, so we'll clean that up, and maybe that's part of the problem. I'm not sure. But otherwise it looks good. Seems like this one is, whoops, this one's just out of adjustment a little bit. The poppet valve, he looks very good. Looks like brand new actually. Can hardly even see wear on the seat. So that's very good. And our little spring inside there. Too many people watching. There we go. So our spring is all good too. We don't have any issues with that. So yeah, I think this one just wore and was just loose. Doesn't seem like there's anything else wrong with this one. So then we will clean it up, put it back together, and set it up right. Going back together. Okay, so 7 thou is spec for these pumps for a used valve. A new valve was supposed to be 6.6, so just over 6.5. I actually opted to tighten this one up a little more than what I usually do. So I put this one at about 6.5, right there. 6.5 thou. And the reason why I did that is because this pump is a reman pump, so it doesn't have that many hours on it. But the valve, just that little poppet valve, just looks so good. Just doesn't have any wear on it at all. So I'm gonna pretend it's a new poppet valve, and we're gonna set it up that way, and we'll see how it runs. Ah, there we go. That's the way it's supposed to sound. Okay, there it is. Let's see what we got here. Okay, here we are. So I was just talking to my customer there, and yeah, he says now when you go to start this thing, it just runs terrible and smokes really bad and this kind of stuff. And so he knew that pump, he knew that the repair that I had done wasn't like, obviously the pump isn't rebuilt. We just tried to fix it. And with the expense of these pumps, that's what we try and do. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But anyways, it's been okay, but now it's totally gone. So he was going to show me exactly what the problem was, and I started the tractor and it runs perfect. So right at the moment, it is running absolutely perfect. And he went through and he thought maybe he had some water in the fuel or something like that, and that wasn't the case. Well, here, I'll just start it here. Let's see. He's gone off to feed some animals there, and yeah, so right now she just purrs like a kitten.
If your home is running hot and cold.
I'll turn that down. Yeah, so at the moment it runs fine. So he was saying quite often what he'll do is he'll start it first thing in the morning and it either works or it doesn't. If it doesn't work, he'll tap on that pump and then it'll just kind of smarten itself up, and it'll work as long as you don't shut it off for the rest of the day. So that is classic plunger wear or whatever in there. I wonder if that solenoid maybe is shot. Maybe I should have changed it. Sometimes on the backside, they kind of, maybe I mentioned this in the footage earlier, but they kind of get a little bubble in them. This one was good. I didn't see any damage to it at all, so I left it, but maybe that's where our issue is, and maybe I should have changed that thing. But in a situation like this where we just don't really know now what's going on, the first thing I'm going to do is throw my scanner on here and let's just find out what the tractor thinks is going on. Yeah, I keep my TEXA scan tool in a DeWalt tough case, and I just recently got it moved, the software moved off of this stupid piece of garbage tablet that they try to sell you. I got it moved onto my laptop. And that is a wonderful thing. It runs so much faster, so much smoother. I don't have to deal with dead batteries all the time. This thing is a very glitchy, oh, these Axion Nemo tablets are, oh, I wish I'd never bought that. Complete waste of money. Okay, put this back in here. Whoop, there it goes. Okay, let me get my good computer. Okay, I'll get my good laptop going here. My whole business is run off a computer. That's just the era that we live in today. Okay, we'll get IDC6 loaded up here. Okay, we'll throw the T up. Oh, let's try that again. Okay, we'll throw our TXT box there, and then the plug for these is down here beside the seat. And we got power. Beep. Turn the key on. Turn the fan off. Alright, so those of you that are not familiar with these TEXA scan tools, I guess you get to get a little peek here at what this is like. So it's exactly the same on the tablet as it is on the laptop, just the laptop is way faster. So we're going to go to our off highway because that's what we're dealing with here today. Whoops, go back. Configure later. Okay, we're going to go to Diagnostics, Agricultural Vehicles, and we want to scroll down to the J, to the John Deere, right there. And this particular tractor is a 7420. So the 7X, 2X series is what we want. Click on that one. Diesel injection is what they call the ECU. We're going to hit that one. Start. Just wait for this to load up here a bit. All right, ignition is on. See if we can get connected here. Okay, and our code that we got. Pump control valve closure too long. That's going to be the 1076 code. Yeah, 1076. So same problem as last time. So basically the best thing to do in this case is to change that pump out, which is what we have. I just wanted to confirm that that was the actual issue here. So that is not an active code at the moment. Let's start this thing up again. Oh, look at that. Oh. Gave one little chug and then it smartened up. Let's try it again and see if it'll act up. Yeah, gave a little chug there again. Huh. Well, it is going to stay working. Well, while we got this thing running, if we go on over to our live data, there is a lot of stuff here. So engine load, we're at 17% right now, just running the engine and the hydraulic pump. 11,000 hours on the tractor. What, really? In the dash it says 1668 and 1488. It's flashing back and forth. I've never seen that before. Check this out. 1488. 1668. Why is that changing? That should not be changing. I don't know, man. This tractor's got some gremlins. The last time I worked on this tractor, it was showing 10,059 hours, so we got almost 1,000 hours out of that last pump repair. So I guess that's not too bad, considering what a new pump costs. Anyway, you can go through and check all the different PIDs that computer is watching, which this one is not a lot because this is kind of like when they were just switching from the full mechanical to the full electronic. This is like the bridge stuff in between. So there isn't a lot of stuff here that it's actually measuring that much. But at the same time, there's a lot of valuable information here if you do happen to have an issue. So this pump control valve closure too long, this 1076 code is orange, which means it's a stored code, it's not active. And obviously it's not active, the thing is running fine right now. So it is what it is. Let's get that engine rolled over to top dead center number 1. And we'll pin it there, and then we'll pin the pump and get her off of there. Alright, so I got my little toolkit here with all my fancy little trinkets for doing this kind of stuff. Today, we want that one, and we want that one, and we want that one. That is our starter turning tool, or flywheel turning tool. That is the flywheel pin to lock the motor at top dead center, either 1 or 6. And that is our pin for pin timing the injection pump, because these are pin timed. So if we go around to this side of the tractor, underneath the exhaust, oh boy. Okay, well, right underneath there, there's a plug, kind of a 2-piece plug. I need to clean all this straw and stuff out of there so I can get my turning tool in there and turn this motor over. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, I had to make sure that my hose actually reaches. Oh, my truck is so dirty this time of year. Man, it's bad. Get that thing going. Set the park brake. Got our light in the dash. And then we fire up the VMAC. Pressure is coming up. Okay, now you can see one of the bottom of the plug right there. I don't know, the way this thing is all set up here, I can't get in very good. Guess I can pull this off. Get that out of the way, but yeah, I'll put my pieces in there and then I'll show you. There, so that is a 2-piece plug in there. The top one is for the starter turning tool, or the flywheel turning tool. The bottom one is where your pin goes for the flywheel, so you can pin lock the flywheel. All right, this is kind of what it looks like when we're all set up. I got my pin down in the bottom there. I have to put pressure on that pin while I rotate the engine. You rotate the engine in, obviously, engine rotational direction, normal direction, which is clockwise from the front, counterclockwise from the rear. Now once I get that thing, I'll turn it and turn it and turn it while pushing on the pin. All of a sudden the pin is going to go boop, and it's going to stick in, and that's going to be top dead center on number 1 or number 6. And I'll show you how we determine which is which. Okay, turn it over until my pin popped in. So with that pin in its proper position, the injection pump is timed right here in this plug. So if the engine is in the right position, then the pump should be in the right position because this is a running engine. The timing hasn't slipped, nothing like that. So if we're on top dead center number 1 right now, we should be able to pull this plug and we'll see the dash in there where that pin is going to plug into. If we're in the wrong position, there will be no dash in there. And if it's in the wrong position, we have to roll the engine over 1 more revolution, which will roll the pump over half a revolution, right? Because the injection pump turns 1 time for every 2 engine revolutions, right? So let's get that plug out and see what we got. Hopefully the camera is going to be able to see down in there good enough. Got this new fancy light. Oh, I like what I'm seeing. That's going to be very difficult for you to see, but because this is full of fuel. So let me maybe blow this fuel out of here, and then you'll be able to see that wheel down inside there with the slot. We are in the right position. There, now that I made a mess and blown fuel everywhere for the sake of making a video, if you look down inside there, you can kind of see the edge of that notch there. So it's not perfectly in the right spot, but it's very, very, very close. So at least I know the engine is in the right spot. So if we take a look at our timing pin, you can see how it's stepped. This fits in the notch, and this rides up against the shoulder so it can't go in any farther. So at the moment, this is not actually going to fit all the way in there. And the reason is because it's not in exactly the right position. See, I mean, you can't tell, but I can tell. This is not going in all the way. So what we're going to do, pull this out, and I'm just going to adjust the engine's position a little bit, because there is actually a little bit of slop in there on that pin. You can get a couple degrees out of that flywheel in either direction with it pinned. So let me just play with this a minute. Okay, so I rocked that engine backwards a little bit, and now you can, hopefully, you can kind of see inside there where we've got the ledge on the bottom and the top on that wheel. So now if we take our timing pin, oh yeah, you can hear it just clip in there. Okay, so that guy is in the correct spot now. This motor is timed at TDC number 1. Now I can take the pump off. Okay, so getting the injection pump off is really not that hard. A couple of little tricky things, but for the most part, it's pretty easy. So you have your return line, which is there. You have your feed line here. Those are easy to get off. The injector lines are a little bit tougher. Some of the ones in the back are really tough to get to. You got 2 plugs. That's all easy. You got your 3 bolts here that are actually pretty reasonable. One of them underneath here. They're actually pretty reasonable to get at compared to a lot of injection pumps. The one tricky part is you have to take that plate off. And in behind there, we have our drive gear, and that drive gear needs a little bit of a puller to get him off. So let's tackle that guy first. First, I'm going to put my pin back in the pump so it stays locked. Not that it matters really, this one's going back for a core, but it's just good practice. I'll see if I can get you set up to see what we do here. Okay, first things first, you got to get your dewalt, and you got to pull these 3 bolts out of there. Make sure we're going the right way. Don't drop your bolts down in the hole. That's counterproductive. Okay, so that's got our plate. I'll get this out of the way. Now you should be able to see that gear in behind there. There, now you got light, now you should be able to see. So this is the nut that holds the gear on. And if you watch that earlier footage that I posted, that nut holds that tapered fit between the gear and the pump shaft. So we take that nut off and then we have to pull the gear off of that shaft. So it's 145 foot-pounds on this nut. So it'll be fairly tight. Then you screw that guy off. Do not drop it inside the timing cover. And more importantly than the nut, there's a washer in behind there. Don't drop that in that timing cover either. It's your nut and your washer. Now we need to get our little puller on there. To get the gear off, I have this little Blue Point puller. Injection pump gear puller. I use this all the time. There's probably a small H-bar or something that a guy could use also. But this is what I have because I do this all the time, so I like to have the right kind of proper tool for the job. Those tapers, that tapered fit between the, oh, that's kind of hard. The tapered fit between the injection pump and the drive gear, that tends to be a pretty tight fit. So don't jump into this thinking that you're just going to take a hammer and pop that thing off of there. It does not work that way. You cannot loosen the pump off and then smash that snout out of there. Well, I guess if you're sending your pump in for a core, I guess you could, because you wouldn't care about your shaft too much then. But if you ever want to use that pump again, you certainly cannot do that. I've stretched and broken these little tiny puller bolts a few times on these things because they can be really tight. This one shouldn't be too bad because it's only been on here for a couple of years since the last time that it was off, so it shouldn't be too terribly tight. All right, so we got them snugged up now. So now you're gonna go like a half a turn on each bolt. Oh, that one's really tight. This one's not as tight, so I must not be totally straight. It should all of a sudden give a pop. Okay, that one's really tight now. I'm worried my hand is gonna jam on top of that thing. I'm gonna get a longer ratchet. Just alternate back. Oh, there it is. Back and forth. You just alternate a little bit, and then once it gives, it usually pops pretty good. It's about all these little bolts can handle to get that thing off of there. If it was torqued properly before you got there anyway. Sometimes if there's nothing that holds that gear to that shaft outside of that press fit, there's no key or anything. So you can set the timing anywhere you want. It's infinite timing, which is why it's important to have your engine and your fuel pump pin in the right spot. But anyway, what I'm saying is, because there's no key, you can slip the timing pretty easily on these if you don't torque that properly. That tapered fit under the load of making high pressure fuel can actually slip inside there even though the nut is on. Okay, well that was that part. Now we can go ahead and get this pump off. Okay, the rest of this, like I said, is pretty simple, so I think I'm just going to hyperlapse this. I'll pull these injector lines off, the plugs and those nuts, and these, the feed line and return line, and we'll just get this out of our way. All right, so there's our old pump right there. It is easier to get this out if you undo all the injector lines up top all the way along there. Then these guys are a lot freer, but I am running out of daylight and I'm trying to get this done quick, so I cheated. You can do it this way, but it's not as convenient. This way meaning I left them tight. They just don't have as much movement to work there, and you have to kind of be a little more careful with your lines as you're wiggling everything out. I can't seem to talk today. It's getting later in the evening and it was 35 degrees. I was changing a water pump on an 8650 for most of the day, and then I spent 3 hours blowing out the radiator, standing in the sun. It was hot. plus 34, plus 35 Celsius. That is hot for a Canadian, at least for this one. And there's our next reman pump. So same thing, we'll get that plug out of there, swap the timing pin over, make sure that this is actually set on top dead center for number 1, and then we'll throw this pump in there. So this pump is definitely not in the right position. There's no timing mark gap there. I don't know if I can hold this with my leg and try and turn this thing. Oh, there it is, right there. No, not quite right yet. I can't do this with one hand. Okay, there, got him in there. He's all lined up nice now. So now we can take that nut off and put this guy in. Came with a new nut and a new washer. Okay, now we need to clean on that gear inside there. Kind of have my light in the wrong spot, I guess, but in that gear, in that tapered fit, we have to get all of our oil out of there. If you have any oil in that, you are going to wind up slipping your timing, because again, that tapered fit, the only thing that holds that gear on there is the tightness of that taper, and if it's lubricated, it can slip. So I just take a rag, spray your brake clean on there, and then I go inside. I'm going to go from the back side, but just for demonstration purposes, just stick that inside there. I guess I can do it from the front, and move that thing around. You have to remember, any brake clean you spray inside here winds up in your crankcase, so you don't really want to be doing that. Yeah, look at all that, eh? You don't really want to be spraying a bunch of brake clean down inside there. So anyway, that's the idea. We'll soak a rag down. Let me get my light back over here where I can actually see what I'm doing. And you want to wipe all that oil out of that taper. Then we do the same thing on the pump snout. Wipe that stuff all off of there. And we're going to scrape the dirt away from our opening here, so we don't get any of that inside when we go to put the new pump on. So like I say, wipe all your oil off of that snout so that you don't have any oil traces on there, and then don't touch that with your fingers because your fingers are oily. And then a lot of these pumps have a 3-bolt flange gasket that goes here. These particular ones just use an O-ring that goes across, so make sure you have your new O-ring on there and you can put her together. Okay, that's all done. Now it's as simple as putting our nut on here and washer and torquing that up to 145. Like so. All right, let's get this to 145. 2, 3, 4, 145. Oh, I must be getting close. 127. There it is. I'm just too weak.
It even tells you.
Yeah, it does, yeah. It's very important that that is correct.
Yeah, boy.
All right, there it is. Everything is all finished up here. We got our gear is torqued on and our plate is back on in the front there. We pulled my timing pin, put the plug in, got everything together, so we're almost ready to crank it over. So there's two things. One, we need to bleed that pump, which this has an electric lift pump, so you just turn the key on and let it run for a while. And then the second thing is we got to pull our pins out of the other side. So first, let's get this pump going. I don't know if you can hear that. That's the electric pump going. Okay, and then on this side, we gotta pull our lock pin out right there, and our starter turning tool. Right there. Put our plug back in. There we go. Now we're ready to try and start it. If all goes well, it should fire up pretty decently, and then we just gotta check for leaks. Well, seems to be running pretty nice. Okay, it looks like that high pressure line in behind there is leaking, so we'll have to tighten that up. Not surprising, that's a hard one to get at. Make sure our front cover here is not leaking. Looks good. Return is not leaking, supply is not leaking, supply here is not leaking. But we got that leak we gotta fix. Well, click test shows that it's working pretty nice. That's perfect, but I gotta fix that leak underneath there. Okay, I think I got that leak fixed. Not dripping anymore. Awesome, that's it, we're done. Got a little dark on me, but that is how you change the DE10 Stanadyne fuel injection pump. Now I just gotta clean up all this stuff. Well, there we have it, guys. That's it for that one. I hope this is gonna be helpful to somebody. Somebody gets something useful out of it. That was actually really hard job to film. It just seemed like no matter what I did, the camera was in the way, or I was in the way of the camera, and the lighting, oh wow, I got a lot to learn. But I thought it would be kind of a fun one. You know, swapping out those injection pumps is always kind of a fun job. Got a little late on me. It took a little longer than I was expecting, but at least this time before I came here, I was able to swing by home and have some supper, so another late night. But hey, you know what? In the morning, there's another farmer that's going to be in the field. That's why I do what I do. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. I never know how good or how bad it actually is until I get in the office and get it edited, so hopefully I came up with something good here for you. But anyways, you guys have a great night or a great day or whatever time it is that you're watching this. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one.